Hey everyone, how's it going? So while I plug away at the Midwest Paladin run, I wanted to give y'all a fun little quickie to hold you over and figured, well, I'm gonna do more Faction Warriors runs in the Mojave Wasteland anyway, so might as well bust it out earlier than intended. For those of you who have been with the channel for a while and are familiar with how I typically go about my usual challenge runs, this might surprise you. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Let's get the rules out of the way. We're trying to beat Fallout New Vegas as fast as possible with any unit we run. I figure the NCR Trooper would be the ideal one to lead off with, get our routing down, and since it's been a hot minute from the first season where we ran Fallout 3 units in the Mojave, courtesy of Tale of Two Wastelands. The one thing in common with my typical Fallout challenge runs is that we'll be console commanding in some gear, and our first Faction Warriors unit, this is what we're running with. We have a lot of great weapons at our disposal, and while we won't see many of these due to going fast, meaning that we're not going to be a high level, what we have will be pretty great. I figure we can console command in the service rifle and the combat knife. I've also turned off mods I normally use like Better Booze and the Courier Stash style Talon pack, though credit for them and other mods I use are linked in the description as always. The service rifle is one of my favorite weapons, although it's not terribly good, and the combat knife is a pretty solid early to mid melee weapon. We'll get a 9mm from Doc Mitchell before we leave because we'll want guns as a tagged skill. The best part is that to handle the service rifle properly, we'll only need 2 strength and 25 guns. As for our apparel, well, take a look at this. On its own, 10DT isn't the worst thing ever, until you realize it weighs 26 pounds. It's actually a terrible exchange. But hey, it's what we got, and we're gonna have much weaker armor throughout the course of this series. Trooper Helmet does help by giving us an extra 2DT, so at least we will have some protection. The real issue is that we move very slow, and there will be a couple of parts where we'll have to remove the armor, such as when we discover Red Rock Canyon or interact with the Hidden Valley Bunker. But beyond those instances, we'll be traveling with a set of medium armor. Last but not least is our special allocation, which may or may not have passed on screen yet, but my personal build of 5 strength, 5 perception, 8 endurance, 1 charisma, 4 intelligence, 7 agility, and 10 luck is going to give us a boost to health, and in TTW, I went with 10 agility and 7 luck, but I figure that swapping those two in favor of a higher crit rate could possibly help with fights going faster. Our tag skills will slightly vary depending on what we play as. For the NCR Trooper, guns for sure, speech because we'll need it for the end of the game and we want to max that out as quick as possible, and I figure medicine's a good third one, so we can get a little bit better healing from stim packs. For traits, every Faction Warrior will be rocking with Logan's Loophole and Skilled. In the event we need Day Tripper, which I think we got in almost every run in the Tale of Two Wastelands series, our chem-induced buffs will last for way longer. Skilled gives us +5 to all skills at the cost of 10% experience. A Good-Natured would give us 5 more for speech and medicine, but I didn't want to lose out on the +5 to our offensive skills, and I don't want to run the risk of addiction from chems. And we're not going to even come close to level 30 in this series, so Logan's Loophole is absolutely perfect. Because we're trying to go as fast as possible, we'll have to minimize the amount of vendors we go to and avoid what battles we can. And we'll definitely minimize the amount of times we use VATS mode. It will help, I'm sure, especially with melee units and dealing double damage, but it does slow things down. Oh, and speaking of time, we're using in-game time. Although this is a series where we're trying to go fast, these are not official speedruns. I don't personally know what the official speedrun route is, so I'll be going fast the way I like to use. Funny enough, Goodsprings just might be the settlement we're at for the longest period of time. There are a couple of things we have to get done here, like selling to Chet to get rid of what we don't need, and work towards a 2K bottle cap credit score. Plus, we've got a ton of weight on us between the Courier Stash gear, as well as our own heavy NCR Trooper armor. Now, this might seem like the opposite of going fast, shooting the bottles of Sunny Smiles behind the Prospector Saloon and all that. Well, only reason we do this is so that we can unlock the cutscene between Trudy and Joe Cobb. You can finish the tutorial or end it right after the bottle shooting tutorial, which we're going to do. We also get a free varmint rifle which we can use, and 556 rounds from it. We want Joe Cobb because he's got something very important for our routing, and it wouldn't hurt to cash in on the XP by talking to Trudy. We're trying to go fast, but we also need experience points to reach that 100 speech check. But there actually is another reason why we talk to Sunny Smiles at all, and that's to get the free Locksmith Reader's Magazine. In the Goodsprings school, after we cleave our way through these mantises, there is a safe that contains mostly random loot, but there's always one stealth boy in there. Maybe with good RNG there might be 2, but I've never seen that before. Point being that there's always a stealth boy in here. That is a static piece of loot. Once we get the stealth boy, we can circle back to the outskirts of Goodsprings where we'll bump into Joe Cobb. Reason why we want him for our runs? After we kill him, the silent kill doesn't really matter since, as NCR, we'll aggro any NPC tagged as a powder ganger, but in future runs, this can help us avoid battling the ones we'll be passing by at Gene Skydiving. But regardless of whether we silently kill Cobb, or go in guns a-blazing, or knife a-swinging, he also carries a stealth boy on him. Funny enough, I've never actually seen him use that, whether aiding Goodsprings or the Powder Gangers. Honestly, it's better in our hands anyway. We can kill the bloatfly so that it doesn't follow us, and instead of killing the little litter of coyotes in the bone pit, we can hug the destroyed fence outlining the NCRCF to avoid them. We are headed for Hidden Valley, as we'll need that on our fast travel for a little bit later in the run, but we're not going to just explore it and get it on our map. As mentioned before, we need experience points, and the bark scorpions we battle in this little chasm are easy to kill, have great XP yield, and most of the time their glands will drop and sell for about 19 caps per. Since they stack and are fairly common, the value of these really add up, and can contribute to our 2k credit check needed to enter the strip. At level 2 we'll take Black Widow, which will be useful here in a bit, but also the passive 10% damage to male humanoids is pretty clutch. Longtime viewers of my Fallout Challenge runs know just how much I love taking the Educated perk, and that's exactly why our int is at 4. It's the bare minimum needed to be able to pick it, so we'll take that once we hit level 4 to boost the total amount of skill points we gain going forward. Having fast traveled back to Goodsprings for one final time, we can make our way to the cemetery, and while the XP from discovering it is cool, here's what we're actually here for. Our goal is to be able to complete the bare minimum for Yes Man's little checklist, and we can get to Red Rock Canyon very easy and very early through use of one of the stealth boys we acquired back at Goodsprings. We will have to remove our NCR armor due to its weight, but we'll need to remove it anyway so that we're not attacked by the Great Khans as we encounter them at Red Rock. The wiki says that you merely need to discover Red Rock Canyon to clear that criteria, but that's just never seemed to work for me. So for our series, and to make sure we actually get this, we'll talk to Papa Khan. Once we unlock RRC on our Pip-Boy, using fast travel to get to Papa Khan's little house is a bit faster, then we can just talk to him and then biggity bounce. Once we're far enough away from Red Rock Canyon, we'll slap on the NCR Trooper armor and continue. We're gonna need that for an upcoming battle. As we approach Outer Vegas, we are going to pot-shot Queenie there with a sneak attack crit, causing Cook to go into an absolute berserker rage, which is actually going to help us out quite a bit. While we could potentially sneak by these guys, I'd rather get the XP that comes from them, as well as the gear they drop. And because Cook is such a wonderful help to us this run by killing his own men for us, we can speed things along here. And as far as Cook himself goes, we're not in too much danger because the Flamer doesn't really affect medium armor the way that it does light armor. I mean, sure, we don't want to sit there and get sprayed by fire, but we can tank it a little bit more than, say, a Khan or a Powder Ganger. I mean, we took a few practice swings in VATS mode and he still wasn't that much of an issue. And from here, it's smooth sailing for quite a while. We're gonna get Camp McCarran on our fast travel. Might as well go ahead and butt bump into El Rey Motel as well. Get the sharecropper farms. That's an absolutely important location for us to fast travel to after we get to where we're going, which is equally, if not more important. That, of course, is Eldorado Substation. We'll be exploring Repcon along the way, and by explore, I mean we just get the experience points for discovering it. No need to stop in there. Once we discover Eldorado Substation, we'll go ahead and fast travel back to the NCR sharecropper farms. We'll settle the Vendertron at the Gunrunners and make our way to the Field Shack. There's no combat on the way. Once in a while, you might encounter a stray fiend, but we didn't this time around. Now as we enter the shack, we'll help ourselves to the Kid Abelin BB gun. That sells for a fair bit of caps, and maybe there's some ammo that can help us out. Nothing too useful this time around. There is a pressure cooker inside of here. We're not going to need that for this run, but if you ever need one for Jack, it's here at the Field Shack. Now here comes a friendly, familiar face. It's our pal, George, boy. And I tell ya, that is the look of someone who is not happy to see us. It's a shame because we love seeing him here on this channel. Now, the reason why he's so important for this run is, yeah, passing that 30 speech check is nice. We get a little bit of XP out of it. But we can kill Georgia Boy with those hollow point rounds we bought at the beginning of the game and loot him of his 427 bottle caps. That's just over 1/5 of what we need to pass that credit check to enter the strip for the first time. We'll go ahead and make contact with the boomers. Very uneventful. I would have stole the combat armor and the stim packs from this room, but Pearl was inside, so we're just gonna bounce. Oh, did I say credit check? Silly me, because we're playing as an NCR Trooper and have the disguise, we can just go back to Camp McCarran. Another reason why it's good to get that when you're playing as an NCR unit. We look like a run-of-the-mill trooper thanks to this disguise, so we get waved right on through, and we have discovered, well, not really, we actually have to go to the Strip North Gate, regardless of whether or not we enter Freeside, but hey, cool. That's a massive advantage for our NCR Trooper. Now, this is why we took Black Widow. We can take out Benny straight away without any fear of combat or reprisal. It's interesting that Obsidian thought that Black Widow doesn't require charisma, but hey, they're the experts, not me. Now, because we can use the 9mm after we dispose of Benny, we can actually upgrade our 9mm to Maria. Maria is a 9mm. As per my typical rules, if we have access to a weapon, we can use any variant of it. Once we loot Benny and then go talk to Yes Man to get him to appear outside, we're gonna head on over to the Ultralux where we'll talk with Mortimer. That's the bare minimum for Yes Man's little checklist. Once we talk to Mortimer, we'll head on over to the Gamora, but we'll talk to the receptionist, pass that 28 speech check, interesting value there. And then after that, we'll go kill Mr. House, and then we'll fulfill the last of Yes Man's little bucket list, visiting Hidden Valley and making contact with the Brotherhood of Steel. We'll go ahead and speed right through getting to Mr. House with our NCR Trooper armor. Again, not the best, but it's more than enough to protect us from the Securitron's 9mm submachine gun fire. Hidden Valley's next. Now, if memory serves, you can attack the Brotherhood and then just leave, and then that will satisfy the criteria. But, well, they have a ton of power armor, and we're one lone NCR Trooper. So I think that the safer play is to go ahead and just do their little fetch quest still in the dark. Just a reminder that I had to remove our NCR armor lest the Brotherhood would have attacked us. We talked Dobson down. Next up is El Dorado Substation. Here's another massive advantage the NCR Trooper has. Because we are disguised, we can enter El Dorado Substation and we won't be attacked because of our disguise. Pretty cool. And just like that, we are at Hoover Dam. It really puts into perspective just how much combat you can skip and pretty much get straight to Hoover Dam. Starting things off, we have 3 great cons to take care of. I think it's worth taking a second to loot these guys because they do have random chems on them. And for some of our units, they'll actually have weapons we can carry. Not this time around, though. Nothing worthwhile on them. As for Kaiser's Kenturians, the assistance of the NCR Ranger, our Securitron, and a super well-timed critical hit Bloody Mess kill gets us through them pretty fast. It took Bloody Mess solely for the 5% increase to damage. Next up is a Prime Legionary and a pair of Kenturians, and not that big of a deal either. I gotta say, that 10 luck really seems to be paying off. We are getting an absolute boatload of critical hits. And because of our passable DT, we're not taking all that much damage either. I can't say the same for this dude right here getting crit after crit. Now we gotta make our way inside. We're going to avoid the Kenturians who spawn in that little midway point there. Make our way on down in preparation to battle the 2 weakest guys in the game. Like, this pair of heavy troopers inexplicably have 100 hit points, and all we gotta do is slap on Bleak Venom to our combat knife twice, and then, yeah, let the poison pretty much run its course. Now, we did loot a hunting rifle from one of the Kenturians outside, so we're gonna go ahead and put that to good use here. We look like one of the NCR troopers here, like, yeah, after you guys. Are we slowing down a little bit? Yeah, but I mean, it's Fallout, man. We gotta have a little bit of combat up in here. And the kill is totally worth it because that guy had 308 rounds on him. A sniper rifle, which we can use, but I'm not gonna bother looting it because we're almost done with the game. And we get a clutch sneak attack crit on the NCR Trooper's weapon before our Securitron blows him to Kingdom Come. Speaking of blowing things to Kingdom Come, we're gonna go ahead and rig the generator in here to explode. Make our way back where there are 2 Prime Legionaries waiting to greet us, although I would not be the one to bring a sledgehammer to a gunfight, but that's just me. We'll go ahead and put them down, and as we enter the elevator, we're gonna drop a quick save before we go on outside, and it's round 2 against Kaiser's Legion. For the limited time we've had this weapon, we're getting some serious mileage out of this hunting rifle. We'll switch to Maria and gun down that Kenturian. He explodes. Bloody Mess is proccing a lot. Must be that 10 luck we have. We have 3 more Kenturians to contend with. Might as well go ahead and use the last of our hunting rifle here. I gotta say, I'm surprised they got that sneak attack crit because I'm not that good with this weapon. We'll go and switch to the combat knife and take a chance with VATS mode. Kinda hard to tell which one we're hitting. Up until VATS mode ends, this dude's got 1 bar of health left. Down he goes from blocking. I gotta say, although the boomers did not help us because we just made contact with them and left, the Securitrons are doing a more than well enough job mowing down Kaiser's Legion as we make our way to the Legate's camp. Now we're gonna have to remove our armor one last time, and making use of that stealth boy we got off of Joe Cobb at the very beginning of the game, we can stealth our way all the way to Legate Lanius. We do have to be mindful though, we can't just walk right through the middle. The Praetorians have excellent senses. We don't have silent running either, so there is a chance they could spot us, but thankfully we don't. That's why you see me pivoting the camera there. And because we have 100 speech, we can go ahead and talk down the Legate. After this, we'll slap our NCR Trooper armor back on for that last hurdle, which is just jogging all the way back to General Oliver. I consider the run clear after we talk to Oliver. Here's a screenshot of our time after talking to Oliver. We're gonna skip over checking that because I don't want to spoil how far along we are in the Midwest run. It only takes about 3 to 4 seconds after that to talk to Yes Man, get through the little text boxes, and be done with the run. I gotta say too, 1 hour and 8 minutes is gonna be a very hard time for other units to beat, but I'm sure that there's one out there. Hope you guys enjoyed this run. Next up is going to be Fallout New Vegas as a Midwest Paladin. The Midwest Brotherhood being my favorite faction in the entire series. See you guys there.